Helen here. Today I'm going to be using a stamp set that I've had for a wee while and hadn't used. It's one that I bought about the same time as the plushies, animal and the onesie stamp set. So this one's called You Are the Best, and it's got some very cute little sheep. I thought it was rather appropriate seeing I live in New Zealand and we've got far more sheep than we've got people here in this country, so it's very appropriate. I started making my card by making myself a frame with this memory box stitch square layered die set. I've used the outside one and the third one in, and I've made just a little frame, and then I'm going to make a scene with the sheep on the inside of that. So I've just drawn around the inside die on a piece of card, and that way I'll know where I need to stamp my scene. I started by stamping a little scene on a scrap piece of paper just to see how it was going to look, and it turned out to be too big, so I need to make it a little bit smaller than that. I start off doing the stamping by putting one of the hillsides onto acrylic block and stamping two of those so that it looks like a hill behind a hill, and then I'm going to stamp the fence out of the same stamp set just in front of that, and I'm going to have a sheep that's jumping over that. And then I'm using some complete sticky back post-it notes to make some masks, and I'm going to mask off where the hills are so that I can ink in a sky. I've just cut a rough sort of cloud mask with the same post-it, and I'm going to just do a little bit of inking to make a cloudy sky background. So just use the tumbled glass and the blending tool just very lightly, just to get a little bit of a haze around each of the mask where I move it, and it creates a beautiful cloudy sky. I move the sky mask around, just alternating the curves and the direction it's coming from, just to try and make it more realistic clouds in the sky, until I've filled up that whole area. I'm then going to use the negative part of the post-its to mask off the sky so I can then blend the grass area, and I'm doing that by using some twisted citron on the bulk of the hill, and then just a bit of mowed lawn on the edges just to give it a bit of depth. Now I've also masked off the little fence that I've done, and I wasn't going to cut out the tiny little bit of in between the fence. I'll show you what I did for that after I've coloured in the hills. Do you have days when you're making a card that everything goes wrong, or you make lots of mistakes? Well, with this card that's what happened. I seem to make a series of mistakes, but I've left them in the video just so that you can see how I fixed, well, most of them. One of them I couldn't fix, but I'll show you how I disguised it. My first mistake was I've used the wrong ink to stamp this hillside. I've used VersaFine Onyx black ink, and it's ended up smudging a little bit as I've done the inking. I should have used Memento Tuxedo Black, so I'm having to be very careful that I don't rub it too much. I'm just kind of dabbing it on, and hopefully I'm going to be able to blend the green out. So that was my first mistake. So to do the little bit between the fence posts, I'm going to take off all the masks, and then I'm just going to mask with another bit of the post-it tape just right around, so I'm leaving the little bit in between, and I'm just going to blend that in between. I've used my MFT to stamp the sheep that's jumping over the fence and the one holding the balloon, and also a couple of the trees. If I use the MFT, I can stamp it all at once onto a piece of card, and then I can just colour it in from there and cut them out. Now I'm going to colour these images with some Copics and alcohol markers that I have, so it's going to be very simple colouring. The trees, I'm just going to use 2 different greens and colour them just so that they look like they've got a little bit of a shadow on the left hand side of them. To colour the sheep, I'm wanting them to be mainly white, but you can't just leave it white. You need to do a little bit of shadows and highlights just to make it look more three-dimensional. So I'm using some warm greys in 3 different shades, and I'm just going to use a little bit around the sort of curliness of the wool, just to give a little bit of dimension to the sheep. And once my images are coloured in, I'm going to cut them out, fussy cut them right to the line, and then I'll go around and just blacken the edges of the cutout just to hide any areas that might look a little bit white that I haven't cut right to the line. The sheep with the balloon, however, I did cut with a little white border because I didn't like my chances of cutting right up the edge of the balloon string, so I thought it was going to be too hard and it was going to sit on the outside of the frame anyway. The next mistake I made was that I stamped some of the little flowers out of the stamp set and coloured them in, and I was going to fussy cut them right to the edge, but doing the little stalk I ended up it fell apart, so I'm going to have to glue it back together again when I come to make up my scene. I've put my background into the MFT, and I'm going to just lay all the components in place just so I can see where I need to put the sentiment, and I'm going to set one of the sentiments from the stamp set. So I lay it face down onto where I want it on the background, and then shut the lid of the MFT and cut it with VersaFine Onyx black ink, and then just stamp it. But I noticed a bit later that it's crooked. The MFT is supposed to help me with that, and I didn't line it up correctly, so I've got a crooked sentiment again. I seem to always spoil my cards with my sentiments. But I'll show you later in the video how I fix that. I'm using a little bit of the laid paper out of this, it's a Pebbles paper pack, so I'm just going to use this green plaid paper and cut it out just a little bit bigger than my frame, so I'm cutting it out 12 centimetres by 12 centimetres, and my card base is going to be 14 centimetres by 14 centimetres. Another mistake I made was that I didn't rub out the pencil line when I drew around the frame, and so now I've got a pencil mark underneath my cloudy skies, so I disguise that by lowering the frame a little bit. I'm going to use a grass border die with a bit of green card cut out inside my bottom frame. I've stuck my plaid paper onto my card base and to stick the frame down onto that, and then I can put all my sheep and flowers and things onto it. I've just popped a little bit of Wink of Stella onto the balloon and the flowers just to give it a little bit of sparkle. While I was putting my components on the card, I discovered that my sentiment was really crooked, and no matter how I did the frame onto the card it still looked crooked, so I can't exactly fix that, so I'm going to try and disguise it a little bit. So I found a couple of little gold hearts that I'd cut out from a previous project, and I'm going to just put them to the side above that sheep jumping the fence, just so that I can distract the eye a little bit from the sentiment. And that's the card finish. The sheep is just so cute. I hope you enjoyed this project. Please give me a thumbs up if you did, and we'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye for now.